All right, because May 1st is International Workers' Day, let's look at some labor data. So, recently, in March 2023, the St. Louis Federal Reserve reported that almost 11% of US workers are self employed, which is up 10% since the pandemic. So, there's a boost there. The US Chamber of Commerce recently reported that small businesses, so this includes that 11% of self-employed people, employ 46% of the working population across 33 million different businesses. Whoa. 80% of that is that self-employed, 20% of that is small businesses who have employees, and most of those small businesses have like 6 to 12 employees. The rest of the workers in the US work about 40% for big businesses, so that's if you have more than 500 employees, or in the public sector, so working for the federal government, states, municipalities. So I'm thinking, because of May Day, International Workers' Day, about work and about advocating for working conditions that we want in all these different industries and how it's different than it used to be, especially because we have small businesses and self-employment in ways that when May Day's advocacy for the rights of workers first started coming out, just manifested really differently. There's tons of opportunities and challenges that we could dig into, but I want to focus in on what it's like to create a viable work experience. So if you're one of the people who works for a large organization or in the public sector, you might be in a union, or you might have to figure out some way to force management to create the conditions that in which you work, or how much work you have, or the pay that you have to be viable for you, which totally makes sense. And also shout out to the Writers Guild of America and folks at Starbucks and other people unionizing to achieve those goals. But if you're one of the other people who work for yourself, and let's kind of pull out from the data gig workers, McKinsey estimates that to be about 8 or 9% of the self-employed group, but there's some overlap. Anyway, but if you are someone who works just for yourself, or works for a small business, it looks really, really different to advocate for having the conditions of labor that you want, because you either set those conditions because you are management, or you're very, very close to management, right? You might have direct control over what you're paid, or over the revenue conditions, in which would inform how much you can get paid. So what I think is really interesting, and what I want us to think about here, is when union advocacy isn't the solution, what is? And I think it is useful to bring up the ideas of self-management, self-advocacy, self-organizing. So whether that is having a small workplace that is a co-op, uses direct democratic principles, uses collaborative principles, agile, team topologies, all kinds of different ways teams organize and groups of people organize to get things done. You use consensus, you use the consent model. There's so many different ways that, especially in these smaller groups of people, we can actively create the conditions that we want to work in. So small entrepreneurship is booming. In 2021 and 2022, the Chamber of Commerce estimated that about 5 million businesses were registered each year, and about a third of those are ones that are likely to employ people in the future. So if you are someone who works at a small organization, one of these 6 to 12 person shops, consider yourself lucky, because you get to experiment with and try on different ways of actually advocating and creating the way that you want to work. I didn't say it was easy, but it's exciting. And it's an opportunity that we have when we work in smaller organizations. So today, shout out to all the small organizations, to the co-ops, to the groups out there who are figuring it out together and being the types of managers that we want to be in the world, so that we don't have to go on strike against ourselves when we work for ourselves or in small businesses, which would be super hard. All right.